What you're witnessing is a reunion between a surgeon and his patient, and it represents a happy ending, an ending that was 180 degrees different 14 years earlier. That's when Scott and Leandra Holmes brought their 12-year-old daughter, Patricia, to Marybridge Children's Hospital. She was unconscious and terribly sick. It turns out she was bleeding in the brain from a disorder called Arteriovenous Malformation, or AVM for short. The neurosurgeon on call that day, Dr. William Morris.
An AVM it's a congenital developmental abnormality where there's a direct communication between blood that's under arterial pressure going into the veins. So you could think of it like a short circuit or a shunt.
Dr. Morris was able to stop Patricia's bleeding, but unfortunately she went into a coma and died the next day. Fast forward to Mother's Day 2012, and 8-year-old Braden Holmes is not feeling well.
I was feeling pretty sick and pretty delirious.
Once again, Scott and Leandra found themselves driving to the emergency department. Braden was examined by a physician, and that's when the care team learned of the Holmes daughter.
He had a sister who had died 14 years earlier of an AVM, and he looked at me and said, "Uh-oh." And he said, "We better order a CT scan immediately."
Sure enough, Braden also had an AVM, and once again, the neurosurgeon on call that day, Dr. Morris.
It's not automatically thought to be hereditary.
In fact, Dr. Morris had never heard of two siblings with AVMs in the brain. But here he was again, talking to the same parents, preparing them once again for the realities of this very delicate operation.
Honestly, my heart and my hope was that he would be fine. But in the back of my mind, I was going to bury my son.
But that's where the two stories part, because Braden's surgery and recovery were a big success, and the news came that day from a very excited nurse.
Have you heard? Have you heard? And we said, no. And of course, we're expecting Braden in a coma, and she said, your son is talking. And we were just, overwhelmed. We just couldn't believe it. So we walked into the room, and here's Braden grinning from ear to ear, this grin, with his head all bandaged up, and he's like, what's the matter with you all? My head doesn't hurt anymore.
Months later, the Holmes family still marvels at the quick recovery and completely different ending their son experienced.
And here he sits, nothing, no residual except that beautiful little scar right there. And I just say it's the hand of God on his head, and we...
Upside down like this.
Is that how it works?